Hello, this is Elaine Sugar, award-winning children's program facilitator and overall supporter of children's dreams. Welcome to the Empower Teen Self-Esteem podcast. We bring you ideas and resources that help teens shine and help ease parents' minds. Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to this episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. Today, we're going to be touching on a very serious topic. We are going to be talking about some of the sexual harassment that's taking place in the schools, and we're going to touch on these things so that we can have our adults and children think about and be aware, look out for, and protect those who it's happening to, and make sure that we address and discourage those who are actually doing these things. So a lot of times you might think something is normal based on the environment unless someone calls it out and lets you know that it's not acceptable. So we want to touch on this very important topic today. We are also going to segue into talking about entrepreneurship and what it means to own your own business and how that can actually increase a child's self-esteem. So we're going to get into these topics with a lady who has a career that's very expansive. I can't wait for you to hear all of the things that she's done and does. And we're going to have this conversation with Gwenno Dafydd. So welcome, Gwenno. How are you?
Thank you, Elaine. It's a real privilege and an honor to be here to have a conversation with you today. And I'm really looking forward to chewing the fat with you, as it were. So, yeah, absolutely.
So why don't you tell us about your wonderful self?
Well, my wonderful self, I am a life, leadership, and master public speaking coach. But I'm also a performer and I'm also a published writer. I have been in performance and broadcasting for the last 42 years, and I have worked extensively with the BBC here in Wales, where I'm based. Wales is in the United Kingdom. And but I also have a parallel career where I actually coach and train and work with young people as well. I've worked extensively with young people. I did 15 years of work as a supply teacher, and I've also been working for the Welsh Assembly Government as a role model on a project called Big Ideas Wales, which we are going to move on to before long. And the other subject we're going to cover today is something that I came across this week, and I'm very grateful to you for wanting to engage with this subject in this session, because it's a document that was presented by Ofsted, which is the organization that goes around and monitors schools. And some of the information they found in this report is pretty horrifying, and I am totally convinced that it has a very detrimental and negative effect on young women in schools. So I'm very, very happy that you are willing to look at this report and some of the issues that are raised, because we can learn. Now's the time to learn, when you are a very malleable, and also, you know, it's before you go out into the world, and some of the findings are quite scary, I have to say.
Well, it's an important topic, and we're talking to teens and parents. And I know parents know that life isn't all roses and happiness and lollipops. And if our teens don't know, then they should know that there are times where you have serious conversations that are about things that can impact people's lives for the rest of their lives. So I think this is one of those topics. So why don't you go ahead and share with us some of the information that the article revealed?
Right. So basically, what it was a research piece of paper about sexual harassment in secondary schools in Britain. And what they found was really rather frightening. And it was that 9 out of 10 girls, 9 out of every single 10 girls, that's 90% of all females in secondary schools in Britain, had some form of sexual harassment, whether that was being called names or pictures being sent of private sexual parts, and that boys had competitions to see how many pictures of naked girls that they could collect. Now, what sort of effect does this pressure have on young women? Now, young children are being sexualized way sooner than they should be.
Right.
And this is happening in secondary schools. Now, in Britain, we have the secondary school system starts at the age of 11. So those 2 years before they start hitting puberty are very, very important on children's self-esteem. There's a self-esteem issue because they go from a small school to a large school. So there's that issue, which is quite key and crucial. But you also then have, if they are being inundated with pictures and demands for sexualized images of them, then that pressure is something that must have an effect on their self-confidence and self-esteem. And let's be very brutal about this. This is not girls asking for pictures of male sexual parts. It's men, young men, boys sending pictures of their sexual parts to young girls. So it is a very big problem, and it needs to be identified, it needs to be called out, and it needs to stop. Young boys at the age of 11, 12, 13 are seeing pornography, and they're seeing it as a norm. It is not normal. I was talking to somebody, I went out for a walk along the river today, and there was a school in London that her friend was working in. And it was quite unpleasant. What she was saying was that the girls would perform sexual acts on boys to stop them being raped. Now, I think that is a horrendous situation. And although maybe some of the parents who are listening to this do not want to hear it, this is the reality. And I don't know what the situation is in America, but I would imagine that this is the case as well. And there's an expression, boys will be boys. No, boys will not be boys, because if this is the way that they behave, then that has to be challenged. And I would suggest to any young women who feel intimidated by this sort of behavior that it needs to be called out and it needs to be stopped.
I thank you so much for actually bringing up a topic that is uncomfortable to talk about. You
Yes.
know, it's a lot easier, even for me personally, when someone comes on and they wants to just, you and I could have just talked about, encouraging teens to start their own business, and that would have been even a much more pleasant conversation for us. So I'm saying that to parents and to the teenagers who are listening, that this is not easy even for us adults to discuss.
No.
But what I would say is, think about the fact that if it's happening to you and you don't say something, the effect that it continue to have on you for the rest of your life, or if you are someone who is sending the pictures, or you are putting pressure on someone to do something with you sexually, then this is something that you need to stop immediately, and you need to talk to someone that you can trust, a safe place, to help you ask yourself, why are you doing those things? Sometimes it's something that you've seen others do, something that you saw on TV, but you are actually affecting another human being's life. You know, when you're in school, you have your whole life to look forward to afterwards. Do you want to do something to someone that 20, 30 years from now, they are still hurting over, they are traumatized by? It's not just a small act that people just pass on, the next day. It's something that stays with you. And then I also want to say, if you are someone who is doing these things, You don't want to have something on your record because you made a bad mistake when you were 13 or 14 and you did something because you thought it would be cool or just because you wanted to. And now you have something on your record that says that you are a person who's abusive, and that has to follow you for years to come. So I think it's wonderful that you brought this to light, and I think we need to consider whether you are the person that it's happening to or you are the person who would consider doing it. You're affecting someone for the rest of their life, and you could also be affecting your own, because if it gets reported and it becomes a part of your record, you have to tell people that when you go to your next school, when you go get, and your first apartment, which should be so exciting. Sometimes you have to register that depending on where you live, that, you are someone who has committed sexual abuse. So it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to take seriously, and find a safe place, find someone that you can talk to.
Mm. And can I just say, the sort of effect it can have? I have a master's
Yes.
degree in women's studies.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of my master's degree, we looked at sexual violence, because this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a continuum, which is basically a line. And it can start with name calling. That's the very smallest thing,
Mm-hmm.
that you could maybe say. And I don't know whether we're allowed to say these things, but people, boys could be commenting about, how puberty is going. So they could comment on someone's uh, chest. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the beginning. That's where it starts. But
Mm-hmm.
where it ends is sexual violence, rape. That's the line. Where do you stop and say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore? You've got to say, and the effects can be very, very traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about, you could have a very detrimental effect on someone's mental health.
Yes.
Their boundaries, which means that their boundaries have been the person. Our biggest boundary as human beings is our skin, is
Mm-hmm.
our body. And when that boundary is actually broken by someone touching us in a way that we do not give them permission to do so, because this is the sort of thing that is happening in schools. Children, girls are being felt up by boys in corridors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they do not give permission to these boys. So their boundaries have been breached. So that will follow them throughout their lives. And do not underestimate the effects that this can have on women's mental health, women's mental stability, their ability to deal with saying no in ordinary situations, because their opportunity for saying no has been taken away from them. So other things can happen, bulimia nervosa, or anorexia nervosa, eating disorders, mental health conditions, self-harming. All of these can arise from sexual violence towards girls. So I'm using this opportunity to say to young boys, think very carefully about how you would want your sister to be treated. Would you want your
Excellent
sister
point.
to be treated in that way? Your girlfriend, your future wife, your mother?
Mm-hmm. It's an
So,
excellent point. And I love the fact that you talked about the line, that, and I just want to stress that because I just want to make sure that we think about that. Because sometimes you think, oh, there was no harm done. I just called this person a name. So basically what you want to do is not even go down that road. You don't even want to go down the road. And then you'll find, oh, I called them a name yesterday. And then so tomorrow, what do you do? And the next day. And what Gwenno is telling us is that the end of that line is rape. That is something
yes.
that that's a line. It shouldn't even be a line. So therefore what she's saying is, don't even think that the name calling, especially something that's sexually related, is okay, because that leads to a certain place. So just don't even go there. Life is already challenging enough. Even if you are a male who is considering or has done things like this before, you don't have anyone doing that to you, and life still is tough. It's tough. It can be tough to make friends. It can be tough to keep your grades up. It can be tough to relate to your parents and why they want you to do certain things and you want to do something else. Life already has its challenges. Don't add trauma to someone else's life. And I do want to say that there may be some girls in situations that may be doing things to boys or saying certain things to
Yes.
boys. So I would say, regardless if you're a young man or a young lady, just don't even start along that line. Think about the impact of the things you do.
It boils down to one word: respect. And in the
Mm-hmm.
same way that name calling is totally unacceptable in any environment, be that a racist or disablest
Mm-hmm.
situation, it's to do with respect for other human beings,
Right.
you know, and equality. I am as good as they are, and they are as good as I am. So it boils down to respect. Be respectful, and then you will be respected back, hopefully. So I'm
Very
really
well
glad we've had
said.
a chance to air this. And I would just say, you know, some of the things that we can do to combat this, you know, is because it does have a very detrimental effect on people's self-esteem. And I think this really is a good way then to move on to our next subject, which is what I was originally going to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that self-esteem for teenagers is key. It's crucial. And we've really deconstructed how sexual harassment of any way can have a very negative effect on people's self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can do to actually increase self-esteem is to look at entrepreneurship, which is basically how to make money. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've been an entrepreneur since I was quite young, really, because I used to do things like I used to go shopping for people and they would give me money. And
Uh-huh.
I'd think, oh, that's good. And I was maybe only 6 or 7 at the time, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then I used to go around and I used to sing carols and I got paid money for that. And then I had all sorts of jobs that I was doing when I was a youngster. I started working really, well, very, very young. And so this brings us to the next subject, which is about mentorship, entrepreneurship. I'm used as a role model by the Welsh Assembly government to go
Uh-huh.
into schools in Wales to promote entrepreneurship amongst young people and also in universities. And this project has now actually started in our primary schools, which is up until the age of 11. So it's
Uh-huh.
a very powerful thing. In Wales, we have the vast majority of our companies here are small, medium-sized enterprise, SMEs, which have less than 250 people working for them.
Okay.
And that is the backbone of the Welsh economy. So we need to nurture young people with the thought that they can go and produce their own businesses. Now, let me give you two examples of people whose names you may know. For example, Walt Disney
Mm-hmm.
started his career as an entrepreneur very early. When he was 7 years of age, he used to make cartoons and he used to go and sell them. That was where he started out in business. Richard Branson, you may know of his name. He started out when he was 16 and probably way younger than that, but we do know that he started his businesses. He pretended that he had an office and actually he used an old red phone box and pretended that that was his office, used a telephone there and phoned all sorts of groups up and booked them for gigs in the school where he was working, and he would charge his colleagues, his schoolmates, he would
Hmm.
charge them. And from those early beginnings, he has gone on to create a worldwide plethora of big companies.
Yes.
So going back to the work I do with Big Ideas Wales, and this is available. I know you're out in America, but you can go to the Big Ideas Wales website. And if
Yes.
anybody is interested in entrepreneurship, which means making money
Mm-hmm.
from your own efforts, then there's lots of information there. It's full of role models like myself who talk about the work that they've been doing. And there's lots of tips and there's lots of worksheets and everything.
Excellent.
So why does it enable people to grow their self-esteem? Well, first and foremostly, it's a challenge. And when somebody actually is able to accomplish a challenge, you feel good. You feel good
Proud.
about yourself.
Yes.
When you make money, then you can work towards a goal.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you feel good about yourself. So all of these things, you know, we can all come up with great ideas. And what I say to young children when I go around schools is, think about something that happens all the time. Grass grows. We have the weather. Hedges grow. Cars need to be washed. You know, shopping needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Think about all those things that you could all do and make some money from them. You could do it in your school. You could get your teachers then to give you a little piece of paper saying, James cleaned my car. It was wonderful. I would recommend James. So you don't need to have an awful lot of material to start off with. If you were cleaning cars, you could just buy a bucket, some water, and off you go. So,
nice.
But there are nowadays with technology, there are many more sophisticated ways of creating businesses, you know, but we can create those businesses early on in our lives, you know. It could be that somebody maybe brings fruit to school and sells a banana for twice as much as it's worth. That's the making of an entrepreneur.
Awesome.
Now, that is a way of becoming self-sufficient. It's a way of buying those things. I bought myself a horse when I was 14.
Wow, you bought your own horse?
Yeah. And the way I did it was because I worked in all sorts of jobs. I was babysitting, I was picking potatoes, I was stacking bales, I was working in a little shop, you know, and all of these things give you an opportunity to grow in self-esteem. When I was 14, I was dealing with American tourists who came over in busloads, and I would talk to them, engage with them, you know, have adult conversations, and I would persuade them. I didn't realize at the time, but I was developing my marketing skills.
Nice.
I was developing my communication skills, you know, and then I worked in bars, you know. I don't know how many opportunities there are, but I can assure you that this will make you feel good. Now, that's what self-esteem is.
Yes,
self-esteem is I feel good.
Yes, about me and the things that I've accomplished. Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes. So tell us some of the good things you have going on, and tell us how to get in touch with you. How does anyone who wants to know more about Gwenno, and I think you have your book there, so include that too.
I do.
Yes.
Okay, this book is called Stand Up and Sock It to Them, Sister.
I love the title.
You like it?
Yes.
Yeah, and funny, feisty females. And I've managed to interview 94 different people who were involved in the comedy industry, including Joan Rivers before she died, and Amy Schumer, and lots of American comics. And basically, it's a book about how to break through the glass ceiling in whichever profession that is, whether that's education, law, but it's through the prism of my passion, which is stand-up comedy. I have a one-woman show about the French singer called Edith Piaf, which I am touring once COVID is over. I write songs and lyrics and I sell those on a platform. I'm selling the courses that I do, and that will be again on a platform. My name, I have a website which is gwennodafydd.co.uk, but if you Google Gwenno Dafydd, and my name is underneath here. If you Google Gwenno Dafydd, you will find such a lot of stuff out there about me. But I would recommend, because this is about teens and it's about their
Yes.
self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
I've progressed along my journey by never giving up. Now,
Yay.
if you're interested in developing your own business, whatever that business is, get onto that website and
Mm-hmm.
find out what you need. You don't need anything other than an idea. Find a gap in the market and find a market in the gap. Make sure that whatever idea you come up with is that you can sell it. I'm not that concerned about selling my wares with you, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just an opportunity to talk to young people. Find yourself a mentor, someone who
Yes.
believes in you, someone who believes in you and will help you go through life. Find yourself a role model, someone
Mm-hmm.
who has done what you want to be doing in your life. My role model is the French singer Edith Piaf, and
Mm-hmm.
she has guided me through my life, even though she's
Beautiful.
dead and has been since the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
But find a role model. Find somebody who really believes in you, whether that's a teacher, whether that's your grandmother, whether that's a lawyer who lives in the next street, anybody. You know, I will be carrying on with my journey through life. I'm not finished yet. I've got still so much to do, and I'm very excited about my work and what I'm doing. And I
Wonderful.
want you to all, those people who are watching this now, I want you all to be as excited about your futures. It could be brilliant, but if it's to be, it's up to me. No one else is going to do it for me,
That's
right?
right.
If it's to be, it's up to me. I have to make those first steps. Do not expect people to just come to you. You have to get out there. You have to overcome your shyness. You have to really bite the bullet, and you've got to just get out there and make that life a brilliant one that you really, really are proud of.
Beautiful. Wow. That's our motivation for the week there. You're talking about a motivation speech for the day. That should last us the whole week. That is so wonderful. I appreciate your passion for young people and sharing your experiences. Um, I just think it has been fantastic that you found that information about sexual harassment and we shifted, and now we've also ended up what we originally were going to talk about was how you can start your own business or find a way to generate money and use that to build up your self-esteem, and that process. It's also a maturity, because there's a lot of things you have to think about and weigh. So I love
Yeah.
all of it.
But
Yes.
don't underestimate. I keep saying this about Walt Disney. Walt Disney started his business when he was 7.
So you're never too young
7.
to start, right?
Never too young. And don't think about how it's going to progress. It
Uh-huh.
will reveal, it will become revealed.
Wow. So, and just in case there are some of my young people who don't know who Walt Disney is, that is the person that started Disney World, Walt Disney.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. And so, did you actually work with Joan Rivers and Amy Schumer, or you just interviewed them for the book?
No, I interviewed them for the book, but I met
Okay.
Joan Rivers when she came to Cardiff, and she was delightful, and she gave me a packet
Wow.
of lipstick
Uh-huh.
with her 5 lipsticks. And I met Amy Schumer in the Cellar Bar in Greenwich Village in New York. So I met both of them, and I met
Nice.
loads of comics in Britain as well. So
Wonderful.
I'm in the process of trying to find another publisher, so I wouldn't be too concerned about the book, really. I
Okay,
mean, in 6
gotcha.
months' time, I'm sure I'll be pushing it because I'll have found
Yeah,
another place. There's
gotcha.
no such thing, by the way, I want to tell these young people, there's no such thing as failure. The
Oh,
only failure you can have in life is not to get off, get. So if you fall back, I'll try that again.
go
If
for
you
it.
fall off the horse, get back on it as quickly as you possibly can. The
Yes.
only failure in life is not to dust yourself off and get back on the horse. We will never grow if we don't fail. So there's no such thing as a failure. It's just a stepping stone to something else.
Wonderful. What a
Believe in
beautiful
yourselves.
way to leave a lasting thought. I love it. Believe in yourselves. So, Gwenna, thank you so much for everything you have brought forth today, including your passion and your obvious concern for young people. I love that very much. So, to our
Welcome.
listening audience, to our teens and our parents, I say, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. I would love for you to listen to this episode with your young people and then have a discussion afterwards to make sure that you make it clear what behaviors are acceptable and what behaviors are not. So I hope you are listening. And if your team was not with you when you listened, I hope you will listen to it together again and have a conversation. We covered some very important topics today that could change their lives forever. So please continue to stay tuned and join us for the next episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Gwenna.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Empower Teen Self-Esteem. Please follow Kids More Sugar on social media. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel to show that you support this content. And you can visit our website at kidsmoresugar.com to learn more about our free online kids program. Thank you.